right. So I have nothing going on today. I figured it's time to blanch some more green beans. So let me see if I can get this angle a little bit better. Bear with me. Let's see here. Oh, there you go. You can actually see what I'm doing. All right, nice. We got this slick new, what do you call it, kitchen island for the kitchen. So I already have some green beans here. I harvested last week, and I just went through yesterday. I should actually probably turn this on. I just went through yesterday and picked the rest of our green beans. And we have more coming in on the plants, but I'm going to let them go to seed. We have easily another gallon of green beans coming in. But I'm just gonna let them go so we can collect the seeds. We have some extra, that's fine with me. And I have two kinds here. So let's see, I have a jade bush bean. It's more cylindrical. They get to be about the same length though. And then this other one I have is more of like a flat wax bean. It's a Kentucky Wonder Bean. And when they're small, you can just eat them as is. When they get a little bigger, you might have to pull the string. But I'm just cutting the tips off these. I'm not gonna make them any smaller. I can do that, you know, when I process them later. I'm just gonna do this quickly and then we'll blanch them. One thing I need to get going once I have a bowl free is putting some ice in a bowl with some salt to stop the cooking, stop the beans from cooking once I put them in the water. So basically what I'm gonna do, and you don't have to cut the ends off of this. Some people, for lots of different types of foods, feel that if you cut the ends off, it helps the beans stop producing, or most foods really, stop producing certain hormones. That's mostly true when you're cutting the top off and then a root section. There's obviously no root section on a bean. I'm really just doing that for ease of processing later on, because I don't know what we'll do with these. I mean, if we're just eating them whole in a stir fry, I don't care, I'll eat this whole thing. If I want them in soup, sometimes the ends get a little pointed, so not the best, but it's definitely edible. So go through. Then when we blanch them, we'll get the water boiling, and you're pretty much gonna dump all your beans in and let them be in the boiling water for about 2 minutes. And then we'll take them out and put them in the ice water and let them hang out in there for a few minutes to chill. And then we're gonna lay them out. You don't have to do this, you could just dry them off. I like to lay them out flat on a sheet pan. Ooh, don't catch yourself. I like to lay them out flat on a sheet pan, on a tea towel, so they don't stick together once I put them in a bag in the freezer. But if you dry them off pretty good, you could probably just freeze them all together. I'm not going to take the time to pat these all dry and make sure they're all dry after they're done blanching. But I will take the time to line them up, so look pretty good. These are pretty good. Honestly, I've been trying to avoid growing pole beans. We had some surprise pole beans last year with our Mayflower beans, which are a drying bean. I suppose you could still eat them when they're green, but I just never really wanted to build the trellis system for pole beans. So bush beans are easier for me. But I didn't order my jade beans on time this year. So I planted all the Kentucky beans, and then after the fact I was like, well, kind of wanted my bush beans. So I ended up buying them anyways. So I had to do some makeshift trellising for the Kentucky Wonder Beans, and I'm kind of glad I did. I bought them the other year before I realized they were a pole bean, so I've just been holding on to them. Those are probably like 3 or 4 years old, and their germination rates were perfect. And I kind of wish I tried them sooner because they take a little while to get going, as most beans do. But then, since they've started producing, I've been getting like a gallon of beans from those Kentucky Wonder Bean patch every few days. Right now, we have a gallon of beans in the freezer. This will end up probably being another 1.5 to 2 gallons of beans that are blanched. And that's not even including all the beans that we've eaten. So they're pretty good. I think taste-wise, these Kentucky Wonder Beans, I don't know, they just taste like a bean that you need to cook with. Whereas the jade bush bean are much sweeter. I don't really know how else to describe it. They just taste sweeter. So they're probably, to me, I think they're better raw or cooked. They're pretty good cooked. But we'll see. I don't really care for the Kentucky Wonder Beans. I think they're good for preserving. Or if you want to use them in stews, I think they would hold up really well there. So let me just put a lid on this. There we go. Now, I'm not salting the water that I'm boiling these in. You can see a little string off that one. It's just plain water. It's gonna be heat up, and then the whole process is pretty quick. If you wanted to boil your beans to eat while they're fresh, then you could blanch them, put them in the hot water for about 4 or 5 minutes before you start the cooking process. Because we're really just kind of par cooking these before freezing, we're just doing it for a couple minutes. But I gotta tell you, this jade bush bean is my favorite bush bean. It grows in pairs. So if you get 2 on a plant, they'll grow together like this, and they grow really fast. And from what I understand about bush beans compared to bulb beans, bush beans tend to give you like one big flush of beans and that's it. And then pole beans, once they get going, they just go, you know, your entire season until it gets too cold for them. But with these jade bush beans, they're great. They just go. They do take a little while to get going. They can smell like a complaint on any green bean. But my jade bush beans, I just put them in once. They go the entire season. It's great. So it's pretty easy to do. I mean, you could do this with scissors. You could do this, put them bunched together. If you had a bunch to do, get a friend to help you. Never hurts. But I love beans. And usually we get enough to have enough for meals throughout the week. This is probably the first year where I've grown extra so we could freeze them. And they end up cooking pretty good once they come out of the freezer. I've never really been a fan of frozen beans. I definitely don't like canned beans. We've tried those. But these work fine. And I like them whole. One of my favorite things to do with beans is get a pan really hot and blister them just with a little olive oil, lemon juice, maybe some butter instead of olive oil, some seasonings. It's pretty good. I don't know if you have an air fryer in your house, but you know, I find for a lot of vegetables, I don't know, depends on the vegetable. I feel like in some cases it just steams them. Other cases it dries stuff out really fast, but you can get a pretty good blistering on green beans in an air fryer, but I prefer to cook them on the stove. Just about done with these. I was doing this the other day and Greg was like, "How are you doing that so fast?" And I was like, because I know how. Worked in food service for some time, so if you worked in food service, you know, a big part of that is food prep. So you just kind of get the hang of that repetitive motion. Now I have to say though, when I worked in food service, I don't think I ever cut a bunch of beans. I've definitely cut some fruit, botched some fruit, cut a ton of vegetables, cooked a lot. Really enjoy food service. That just doesn't pay well, I'll be honest. It's something I enjoy. And I think if I moved somewhere else, I was getting like reestablished, I definitely go work in a kitchen. Or my credentials go with me, then not. But I'll tell you honestly, it does get kind of old cooking food fast. I like to cook food slow, take my time, really just kind of appreciate it. I mean, this is a bunch of beans. For all the beans we grew, with the way grocery store prices are, I mean, we've probably grown, let's see, if you get a bag, that would probably be smaller than this bowl at our store. I think it's probably about $6 these days, or if it's on sale, it's like $3. So I think we've probably picked somewhere between like $30 and $50 worth of green beans. And of all the beans I've planted, that cost me, I don't know, like $10 between all my seed packets, and they're all like $2 each. That's pretty good turnover. And I'm saving my beans this year, so I won't have to buy them next year. Is gardening time consuming? Yes. I think anyone who says it's not is a liar. Is it worth it? Yes. I've had people tell me, why would you do this when you could take your time for other things or just buy in the store? And you know, as much as, you know, I'm not opposed to buying things in the store because there's things we just can't grow and we're gonna go buy it. It really does taste better when you grow it yourself, especially if you know what you're doing and you start getting a lot. I think, quite honestly, one of the biggest issues that people run into is that you're not growing enough, you're trying to grow just enough. And what you have to do is grow at least half to, if not double, what you think you need so you can get enough. And enough is going to look a lot different for your family and your tastes, but for us, like having 2 or 3 gallons of green beans in the freezer is perfect. We don't eat green beans every day. So let me go ahead, I'm going to fill this up with some ice. Once I take these green beans and put them in the pot, I'm actually going to be dumping our ice and water in here. Get any extra stuff I don't want in our final product off of here. Just going to put some salt on our ice. It doesn't melt as quickly. Just about there. Let's give it another moment. When you're growing, it's so important to grow more than you think will be enough. For example, anything can really go wrong. If you forget to water something, if you have the wrong nutrients, you might think, a little 12 by 12 area filled with carrots is enough for you to snack on, but if it doesn't do well, you get maybe 2 carrots that come up, and then the whole rest of that little 12 by 12 area doesn't give you carrots, then it wasn't really enough. So you need to account for things spontaneously dying, unexpectedly not doing well. Honestly, if something does better than you expected this year, it doesn't mean it might do better than expected next year. So if you kind of overshoot what you want to collect, you're gonna win every time. And that's kind of my idea with these beans. I didn't really expect to grow this many beans this year, but it's a nice treat. This is boiling. Over here. All right. So all I'm gonna do, we'll see how many can fit in here. Might have to do this in a couple batches. I could probably fit them. And these are going to cool down the water. That's okay. Oh, nice. So, been there about 10 seconds. We're still going to do 2-minute timer. It's okay if we go a little bit over. And what you'll notice when you do this, and it's kind of hard to show you with my camera in a static position, is your beans are going to get to be like a really bright green. And that's from the cooking process. And then when you put them in the ice water, it's going to really capture that bright green color. So I can see right now they've already kind of had that change go on. And if we just kept boiling them, and if you've cooked with green beans, they lose their color after not that long of a time. So you could be putting it in soup or canning it, and sometimes you end up with like a grayish green-brown mess if it's in there so long. Actually, perfect example of that. I made some dilly beans last year. Check this out. Not quite a bright green as you would from blanching. And that's just from the canning process. There's about 30 seconds left. Doing good. For some reason they're popping. I don't know why. I think some of them might have some air cavities in there. Alright. That's about enough of that. A little heat. Alright, I have my ice water here. So I'm going to do, let's just get a little scoop of them. Alright, put them in here. You can see, really nice bright green color. So let me get the rest of these out. And the jade bush beans are definitely brighter. The Kentucky Wonder beans, I think, are a little bit of like a thicker skinned wax bean. So, a little bit more pounds, all right. All I'm doing. An extra, 30 seconds to a minute in here is okay. There's just one that was just stuck at the bottom. I don't know why. All right. So, whenever you're blanching items, you start with your ice, right? It's going to melt down inevitably. So I'm going to throw just a little bit more ice on here because this is already room temperature water. While these are cooling down for the next few minutes, what I'm going to do, oh yeah, that's perfect. What I'm going to do is get our pans ready. So I'm going to go grab a couple of clean tea towels. I'll be right back. So I like these because the tea towel not only keeps the beans from sticking to the tray, but once you have your layer, you can kind of fold it over and then kind of stack your beans on there. So we'll see how many we can do. Can't fit a ton on here. I actually have my other two, I have two full pans. One of them has shredded zucchini that's freezing right now. You just shred it raw. Just clean off your zucchini, shred out in a shredder. I make little half-cup portions, so I'll let it sit for about 20 minutes after it's shredded, and then I'll start pressing the water out. Don't put any salt, don't do nothing like that. And I'll take a half-cup measuring cup. I'll just squeeze everything in there, thwack out, a little puck. Put it on some parchment paper, and I'll freeze in a little bit. But also I'm freezing some tomatoes that need to be frozen. So let me move the camera a little bit. You can see how I line this up. There you go. World's best camera angle. Now, we're cooling these off to stop the cooking reaction and cooling them off so that once they go in the freezer, it's not gonna mess with our freezer situation. So I'm just gonna line them up. It's okay if they're touching. Give them a little shake. You can throw these in a colander to drain them more efficiently. I just like to line them up all together. And these all freeze overnight, and then tomorrow these will all be individually frozen, and I could put them in a gallon freezer bag, probably 2 of them, for longer term storage. They'll keep about 6 months, not a year. Vegetables don't tend to keep as long as like if you made some sauce and put some sauce in the freezer, but we'll definitely eat them. We're looking to get a new standing freezer too, to replace, we just have, I think it's 5 cubic feet. It's just a little chest freezer. So that'll make our lives a lot easier. I can't tell you how much stew and soup and fruit and random vegetables I have in there. And I have not even started processing our potatoes. So our little potatoes, oops, just lost a green bean. Come here. Oh, it's not going anyways. Our little potatoes, we like to kind of pre-cook also. So what we'll do is we'll cut little like wedge fries, and we'll cook them in the oven for about half the time you would usually cook fries. And then we'll cool them down, freeze them, and keep them in a bag. Last year we tried freezing French fries that were raw, but that we soaked. It's just not the same. They start tasting weird, but they keep really well and they taste really good when you cook them, when you pre-bake them. Another thing I like to do with the potatoes is to take little ones, like little boiling potatoes, and we'll clean them up, we'll boil them whole for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, pretty much cooked all the way. And then we'll cool those down, freeze those, and those are really good because I can put them in the air fryer and they're already cooked. So all we have to do is sort of like, I don't know, thaw them out in there and then put some seasonings on them, or just warm them up and you have little boiled potatoes ready to go. I like to thaw them out though, and then once they're thawed out, just smash them because they're already cooked, and make some smashed potatoes. Those are really good. And that's a really good way to store your potatoes if you don't have any dry storage for them. We've tried dry storage. We're gonna try a different method this year. We've tried pine shavings, and they're too dry for them. So they really do better if they're in like a somewhat moist environment, but not damp. So this year we're gonna try just putting them in buckets with sand, just for the bigger ones. You really don't wanna try to put potatoes in dry storage that are smaller than the size of your fist, just because there's just not enough potato to kind of keep it going until you start planting them out next year. So the little ones definitely are good to store in the freezer. You can also do, I've seen people do some dry canning. I can't attest to dry canning potatoes. Look it up. I haven't tried it because it makes me nervous that your jars are gonna break, but people have success with it. So dry canning your potatoes, excuse me, is supposed to work. You can do regular potato canning. You can put them in whatever goods you like. Or if you have a big family, just, you know, eat them while they're fresh. We're gonna have a ton of potatoes this year though. Ooh. We have a wheelbarrow worth of potatoes that I've not been doing well with. They're still sitting in the wheelbarrow in our garage. They're fine, it's just not optimal. So that's part of my processing plan this weekend. I have a whole nother patch of Baltic rose potatoes that are not even ready to harvest yet, but I think I am gonna harvest it because we're starting to get some cool nights. They did flower. We do have a bunch of potatoes coming in. I just kind of want to like get them out and get it over with. They were all planted at the same time, and our Yukon Gems and Purple Suns were done first, and the Baltic Roses are taking their sweet time, but those are a bigger potato, even though they're all mid-season. So I gotta deal with those, and then not even to mention, but I'm gonna mention it anyways, we got our sweet potatoes growing on a different part of our property. Trying those for the first time this year. They do grow in the area. I know some universities in the area actually grow sweet potatoes for local grocery stores as part of their farming programs, which I think is really cool. And then I don't know. I always thought sweet potatoes would be a lot harder to grow. Turns out if you buy slips instead of making your own slips, super easy. All you have to do is put them in a jar of water, and then when they rooted out, which was like, took less than a week, I just moved them outside and then they're set. So, they're not ready yet, but they're also gonna have to come out soon because we're getting cool nights. So check this out. This pan's done. I'm gonna bring it over to you. Looks great. So none of the beans are on each other. You can see they're kind of wet still. That's okay. I might pat the top dry a little bit, but let me put it over here. These gotta come out with me to our garage because that's where our chest freezer is. Because this freezer has the tomatoes and zucchini in there. You know, some people really don't like growing zucchini. I can think of one content creator who's just like, oh my God, don't say the Z word. But I think it's kind of funny. And I get it. You know, there's so many different kinds of summer squashes that you can grow that's not that. But for where I live, they tend to do the best. I didn't even grow any patty pan squash this year. I do really like it, but it's kind of hit or miss if it does well here. We had one year it did really, really good, and then one year it just didn't do anything. And this year's been really hard between the rain and all the smoke in the air. It's just really impacted the amount of sun everything's gotten. So although we've had like dry, hazy days with all the smoke in the air from the fires in Canada, more so in July, although I know they're still going on. And then all the rain, it's just the amount of sun everything's getting is just not it. Now it's been great for our cabbages, but like our peppers are really suffering. We just have some peppers coming in now, which is not unheard of, but on good years for when we plant them, you know, I would have already been harvesting peppers since like the beginning, middle of August. But on rainy, hazy years like this, it's kind of normal that they're not really doing that hot. That sucks because we really like making our fermented hot sauces. So that's okay. We have food to put away. I still have a bunch of canned tomatoes left over. I actually just made some dinner tonight using one of them, and If you go through one of our older channel videos, we did a bunch of meat canning. So we canned some stew meat and canned, I think they were chicken tenderloins. If you go back in our main channel videos, we have a playlist. I think it's called like canning stew meat or something. You can check that out. And those last for a long time. So we're really not hurting for food, although it still sucks to go to the grocery store. We've been pretty good. Really, at this point, only need to go and pick up some meat, but like I said, we're thinking about getting a new freezer because we really don't have any room right now. But some people are really against freezing foods, and honestly, I would rather lose some nutrition in my foods that are very nutritious that I grew in preserving it, whether that's freezing or canning or whatever, than not have it at all. People act like, you know, you preserve these foods instead of eating them fresh or eating them raw. You know, what's the point? And I'll tell you what the point is. The point is to eat good food. And if something is slightly less nutritious because you preserved it, but it's still probably more nutritious than some like old food or whatever else you might get, that's fine. I really don't care. I'd really like to know why some other people do their gardening though, because some people are very militant about it. I think it's fun. I like having it as part of my lifestyle. It's something that I enjoy planning for every year, executing, getting all the goodies to make over the winter and in the spring. And there's always something I can learn about it. And I think if you have a hobby that you can always learn from, and it's, you know, at times not just a hobby, it's just what you do. I really think that's great. I think more people need hobbies. I really don't look at this like a hobby. This is just something I do, like making videos. I guess technically that's a hobby. It's not like I'm making any money off it right now, but it's just something I'm gonna do. I just want to show people this stuff. So this stuff looks awesome. Knocking things over here. So this towel's also clean. Just gonna give these a little, yeah, that's perfect. Just a little press. Doing that mostly so our pans don't stick to the bottom of each other. All right. 2 little bean trays. This is great. So if you're making beans at home and you're less long-winded than me, this whole process will probably take you like, I don't know, however long it takes water to heat up, maybe like 20 minutes. Let's be realistic, things happen. Let's say 30 minutes, depending how fast you do something like this. Now, sometimes people will just pat these dry and just toss it in your bag and it's good to go. I worry about things clumping up together, so I'd rather just have them freeze individually. And our frozen ones actually look really good. I put a picture on our Instagram of the last batch that I did and how they came out. So, yeah. Got some beans, got some good food. Hope your garden's going well. As we get into September, we had a couple nights in the 40s recently, so I gotta do some cleaning inside. I gotta bring my fruit trees in this weekend. It's gonna warm up here, so we'll have some warmer nights, but you know, New England, we're in Massachusetts. Once it starts to be like past September 1st, sometimes we get like rogue, really cool nights. And then it'll warm up. Like some years, I'm still harvesting tomatoes till Halloween. Some years we've had like terrible snowstorms, like in the middle of October. You never know what you're gonna get. We've had a very rainy summer though, so I don't know. I'm told that usually translates into a more dry winter, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll still be cold. I hope your harvest season's going well here in New England. Anyone else in a similar climate where I am, we're in full swing harvest season. So stuff like this is gonna be my life for the next month, and I'm here for it. I hope you take care. We'll do another live sometime. Otherwise, I'll be making some more food preservation videos and posting them to our main channel. Bye.